Welcome to the Young Turks Category Show, Edward, guys. Okay, you know that. Now, in the second hour, we're going to discuss a little bit about Ebola and, of course, Fox News and ignorance about it. That's both a disastrous and a fun topic. By the way, we're the only show in America that's this balanced. Okay, we hope, we think that we're going to show you what you actually should panic about Ebola and what you shouldn't panic about Ebola. So the real facts is the things, why it's super dangerous and why it's not that big an issue for us here in the U.S., okay? So we'll give you all sides of that, as we will on the huge blow-up between Bill Maher, Sam Harris, and Ben Affleck. That's a little bit later in this segment, so you're going to see that anyway. And then more from the Phantom Menace. Khorasan! New interviews from officials saying they are coming. And then, I mean, we didn't do a told you graphic, but at the end of that story, I got to give you a told you. Turns out, the reason we're targeting Khorasan that doesn't exist is because of how embarrassed we are about something. I'll tell you what that is a little bit later in the program. That's why we have fun here. Okay, now, speaking of fun, let's pray. Let's pray on it and hope to have some fun. Okay. New poll out by Lifeway. Now, they're a Christian retailer based in Nashville, Tennessee. So take it for what it is, and it's an online survey, but it does give you some interesting results, and they did talk to a lot of Americans, 1,137, which is not bad for a survey. Okay, so first of all, they asked the question of how often do you pray? Interesting, I like that, to find out the answer to that question. Several times a day is 31%, okay? That's a lot of folks praying throughout the day, bless their hearts. At least once a day is 48%, so that's about the same as other surveys in this field. We say that about half of Americans pray on a regular basis. And then you've got 65% there saying at least once a month, okay? So far nothing too surprising, but it gives you a sense of how much Americans pray. Now, here's my favorite part of this survey. The question asked was how often people say their prayers are answered. Okay, well, turns out that 25% of people say all of the time. Really? 21% say most of the time, 37% say some of the time, 3% say none of the time, 14% say I don't know. There's so much to love about this. I think my favorite folks are the I don't know category, 14% of that. I mean, look, I give it my best shot. Does it come true? I don't know. Does it work? Got me. Okay, 3% also say, don't know, have no idea what God's up to. Good for you. I mean, they're trying, they're praying, right? But they don't know if it's working. But come on, everybody's favorite category is. A quarter of Americans believe their prayers work every time. Really? You want to talk about the soft bigotry of low expectations? Dude, pray higher. Pray higher. Give me a lottery, give me something. You know what I'm saying? If all of your prayers are coming true, how about some rainbows and unicorns for everybody? How about you don't want to personally enrich yourself. Bless your heart. That's exactly right, okay? I don't want you praying to make sure that the Cowboys win or that you get rich or anything like that. How about you pray away cancer for everyone? I mean, if every one of your prayers is coming true, a quarter of the country is massively self-deluded. Now, most of those guys are not bad guys. They're probably earnest people. I'd be surprised if there's a lot of people in that category that were praying for personal benefits like getting rich, etc., because they know that that's not necessarily coming true. So these are probably good prayers overall. But to think that they're all coming true is, well, it would appear to be counterfactual. But if I'm wrong about that, for Christ's sake, please pray a little better for bigger things like curing AIDS, cancer, stopping all wars, etc. Okay, now. We move on to a different category here. I love this as well. Of what do they pray for? So first they explain 74% pray for their own needs and difficulties, understandable, and 42% pray for my own sin. Okay. Study also found that Americans are generous with their prayers. 82% pray for friends and family. Good for them. I like that a lot. And 38% pray for those who've experienced natural disasters. Perhaps we could pray for them before the disasters happen so we wouldn't have to pray for them after the disasters happen, especially if you're one of those people who have all their prayers answered. Anyways, but I'm an agnostic/atheist dick. Okay, people who pray seem less concerned with praying for politicians, 12%, and celebrities, 5%. It would appear that celebrities got a lot of what they prayed for answered anyway. Okay, I know that they have tough lives in other ways, okay? But I like that they're not praying for the wrong things. Now, that is a different category. When asked about that, they did have plenty of good answers for the wrong things that they prayed for. All right, now let's have some fun. Give you that long list. All right, have you ever prayed for people who mistreated you? Okay, 41%. Now, I'm unclear on if you prayed for them to get better so they wouldn't mistreat other people, or you prayed did something not so great happen to the people who are mistreating you? I'm not sure. Okay. Prayed for your enemies, 37%. Now, again, if you're praying on behalf of your enemies, don't get me wrong, I might be atheist, agnostic, etc., but that 37% are probably terrific people. I'm not sure I'd pray for my enemies even if I believed in prayer. Okay? So, God bless. Very appropriate there. All right. Now, winning the lottery, of course. There we go. 21% praying for winning the lottery, 20% praying for success in something you put almost no effort in. I love the honesty of that one. Well, look, I'm going to be real with you, God, dog, whichever way. Okay. I really haven't put anything into this, but can you just kind of give it to me anyway? All right. At least you're honest. 15% pray so that no one to find out a bad thing you had done. That number is actually higher. Only 15% are admitting to it. It's got to be a higher number than that. 14% for God to avenge someone who hurt you or a loved one. That's keeping it real, okay? 13% for your favorite team to win a game. I can assure you that God does not give a damn whether the Seahawks win or the Redskins win. Well, you might be a little anti-Redskins these days. All right. Bad things to happen to a bad person is 9%. Finding a good parking spot, that seems like a bit of a waste of prayer, but 7% are doing that. 7% not getting caught speeding. That's a little bit better used. That'll cost you a lot of money. Success in something you knew wouldn't please God, 5%. I'm not saying God's in favor of blackjack, but I could use a 21 right around now. Okay. 5% pray for someone's relationship to end. That ain't right. God's not going to help you with that. 5% pray for someone to get fired. And I like the general category of 4% pray for someone else to fail. I'm just wishing general failure upon you with the Lord's good blessings. Perhaps that can come true. But it's only 4%. So these are good people overall. Now, final thing that I found interesting is the difference between the well-to-do and the rest of humanity. Now, look at what this says here, okay? 1/4 of respondents with an annual income higher than $150,000 pray for bad things to happen to bad people, while only around 8% of respondents making less than $50,000 said they would do so. And nearly 1 in 5 Americans with incomes over $150,000 have prayed for someone to get fired. In contrast, only 1 in 20 Americans who make between $75,000 and $149,000, and only 1 in 100 Americans who make less than $30,000 say they have prayed the same. Isn't that really interesting? So if you're making over $150,000, you're relatively wealthy, you're actually praying for negative things more to happen to other people. Now, other polls have shown an unfortunate lack of empathy among people who are making more money. That the less money you're making, the more empathy you have. Now, look, some of that is just logic. Like, if you're in a tough spot, it's easier to empathize with other people in a tough spot. If you haven't been in a tough spot, you're like, what are you talking about, man? I'm a self-made man. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. But in this case, we have prayers of other people getting fired and terrible things happening to them, even though the people for those prayers are at a higher bracket. Like, they're already doing well, but they're wishing poor things upon others anyway. Now, we don't know who those others are. Maybe they're jerks. You know, maybe they had it coming, right? And I don't like to make generalizations about, you know, anybody. And remember, again, even with the wealthy, it's a small percentage. It's 1/4 praying for bad things to happen to bad people, right? And it's only about 20% that are wishing that someone gets fired, right? So it's still, you know, a small minority, but it is a much bigger number than people who have less money. Really interesting results. You make of them what you wish. I look at them, I see both the good and the bad. I see a lot of people praying for others and being selfless here. I see some people who might not quite understand how prayer works and its efficacy, right? But that's not surprising. And I see a lot of goodness and some questionable results as well about humanity. I guess overall, no one is surprised. Okay, so that's what we do with our prayers. Now, the first segment I should have told you is all about religion. Now we turn to what we think of other people's religions. Oh, there's a doozy. Okay, it's a completely different study. Okay. Pew Research Center did a study on different religions and your views of them. So they asked people to rate on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being cold, like, nah, I don't like it, not buying it, right? To 100, which is really warm. I really like that religion, okay? So a big sample size here. They asked Americans, which religion came at the bottom? If you haven't figured this out yet, you're not really paying attention to the news. Yeah, Muslims, dead last. Rating of 40, meaning generally cold, closer to 0 than to 50, right? Or than to 100, I should say. All right, who came in second? Well, you look at this. Good for you, atheists. Normally they finish under Muslims, but the Islamophobia is so rampant now. Atheists have moved into this second to last spot. Okay, moving on up to the Upper East Side. Okay. Well, they might literally be there. Okay, third group, another fan favorite, Mormons. They don't get a lot of love either. 48, but now we're getting closer to the 50-point mark, right? 50 is in the middle, neither warm nor cold. And in fact, Hindus are at 50 because people are generally confused by them. I don't know, Hindus, I don't, okay. I'm not warm, I'm not cold. Okay, apparently that's what Americans think. Next on the list is Buddhists, 53%. We know some Buddhists. Richard Gere, I think, is a Buddhist. They seem like generally lovely people. We're slightly warm towards them, but not really that warm. Evangelical Christians at number 2. No, number 3, I should say, at 61. Now, understand why they rank a little higher. There's many different reasons, but one of them is that there are more evangelical Christians in the country, and they also vote in this poll. So evangelical Christians, they're like, oh, yeah, that really high. We're great. Okay, so about 32% of the country is evangelical Christians. That's a big number, right? But nonetheless, Catholics, who are only 20% of the country, came in a little higher at number 2 at 62%. Good for them. Now, here comes the shocking number 1. Jews at 63. For the first time in 2,000 years, Jews, the most liked religion in America. Well, a little shorter because it's America. So in about 500 years or so. It's been a long time coming. Jews, you finally made it. Okay. Hey, you know what? I'll take it, man. Progress in America. Who would have thought Jews would have come in number 1? Now, of course, part of the reason is, now the Jews are not a huge category here, only about 2% of the country. So, of course, they rate themselves positively, as every group does. But evangelical Christians were very much in favor of Jews, partly because they've been taught in all the churches, Jews are the chosen people. That's what the Bible says. They have to get the promised land so that Jesus can come back and then kill everybody. Oh, ooh, that's a little inconvenient. But anyway, that's part of why they love the Jews. But apparently, the feeling's not exactly mutual. This is fun. Evangelicals, according to Pew, also hold a very positive view of Jews, and white evangelical Protestants giving Jews an average thermometer rating of 69. Only Jews themselves rate Jews more positively. But that warmth is not mutual. Despite evangelicals' warm feelings towards Jews, Jews tend to give evangelicals a much cooler rating, 34 on average. Now, that might have to do with history. History is that let's put it this way. Christian fundamentalists have not been kind to Jews throughout history, okay? So it's understandable to be a little wary. Plus, remember at the end of that fun movie of Armageddon, all the Jews die. So that's a little inconvenient. Now, 144,000 get saved. I believe some are Jewish converts. So if you convert at the last, say, Jesus, sorry, my God, I didn't know. Okay, then you're going to get saved. So the end of the movie is not great for Jews. That's part of the reason why you have that disparity. Okay? Now, as to the Muslims, look, they, of course, did well among Muslims. They did very poorly in other categories, which I'll show you in a little bit. But I wanted to show you two positive things, the two groups that rated Muslims the most warmly that were not Muslim. Number two, actually, black Protestants. Way to be open-minded. That's partly because about 23% of Muslims in this country are black. So about a quarter are black. So black Protestants might know more black Muslims, which makes them more likely to support Muslims overall. Okay? And as you saw, they're agnostics. Yeah, that's right. The most open-minded, 47% in favor of Muslims. Now, don't get too carried away. Those are still below 50. Like, we're not really positive on you. We're just a little less negative than the rest. Okay, now, on atheists, who hated atheists the most and who liked atheists the most? You're not going to. First of all, of course, atheist agnostics rated themselves the highest, but once you get beyond that, white evangelicals, unsurprisingly, at 25. No interest in atheists. Damn, that's cold. But look at that, another great showing here for Jews in this poll. Jews rated agnostics and atheists the best at 55, okay? And that's above 50. God bless the Jews. Apparently he has, because they're very well liked in America. Okay, great. So now, more distinctions here that I love. When asked about other non-Christian groups, evangelicals tend to express more negative views. White evangelicals assign Buddhists an average rating of 39, Hindus 38, Muslims 30, and atheists 25. The chilliness between evangelicals and atheists goes both ways. Atheists give evangelical Christians a cold rating of 28 on average. Okay, so not a lot of love lost there, okay? So, but I like that the evangelical Christians are still a little, ideologically consistent. They say, don't get me wrong, I can't stand the Muslims, but the atheists are even worse. Okay. So, and again, more evangelical Christians in the country, so they lift up all the other Christian groups because they vote higher for the other Christian groups. And they suppress the ratings of all the other groups because if they're not Christian, they rate them really, really low. Why? Because they're more fundamentalist, and you take it for good or for bad, they really believe in being Christian. And so if you're not Christian, they're not buying what you're selling. Okay? So now, we go to the young for hope in this poll. Adults under the age of 30, for instance, give Muslims a neutral rating of 49 on average, whereas older adults give Muslims significantly more negative ratings, 42 among the ages of 30 to 49, 36 on average among those 50 to 64, and if you're above 65, you give Muslims only a 32. So the older you are, the more bigoted you are against Muslims. Yes, I use that word because, they're all human beings. If you were being perfectly, factual, as human beings, you would rate them all 50, right? Now, you can disagree about ideology, you can disagree about culture, but as human beings, an atheist is not more likely to be a lovely human being than an evangelical Christian. A Mormon is not more likely to be worse than a Buddhist, etc. But obviously, older Americans are, again, a little, I'm being kind by saying a little, discriminatory against Muslims. But younger Americans have them almost exactly where they should be. They have them at 49, right around that 50 ballpark, okay? Now, when we go to the young in terms of other categories, it's also good news. Fully 85% of Americans aged 65 and older describe themselves as Christian, compared with just 59% among adults under 30, 32% of whom identify as religious nuns. Now, N-O-N-E-S, obviously, not nuns as in N-U-N-S. That would be amazing. Okay, now I view that as good news because I'm agnostic. So it used to be, as you see with older Americans, 85% saying that they're religious. Now we got to knock that down to just a 2-to-1 ratio. 59% saying that they are religious and 32% saying I have no religion at all. Not bad. We're catching up. Okay, we're still hated, the atheists, right? Put atheist, agnostic, unaffiliated in one category. You can call it generally atheist. Okay, we're still hated, but all of a sudden we're rising. Okay. Now, let's go to politics and the different views of the different political parties, Democrats and Republicans. This is not surprising, but the numbers are instructive. First of all, among for the Democrats, all the groups are bunched up in the middle. So it goes Jews is 62, Catholics 61, Buddhists 57, Hindus 54, evangelical Christians 53, Muslims 47, atheists 46, Mormons 44. Not bad. They're scrunched up in the middle and generally tolerant. I'm amused at how Mormons came in dead last among Democrats. Perhaps because Mitt Romney just ran for president and he was a Mormon. That might have something to do with it. Okay. Now, for the Republicans, evangelical Christians, of course, way up top at 71. Jews trailing, but not by much, at 67. Catholics, 66. Mormons were dropping down to 52, but they're still considered Christian. Buddhists, you're losing us at 49. Hindus, 47. And then we fall off a cliff. Atheists at 34 and Muslims at 33. So for Republicans, they got no interest in atheists. They got no interest in Muslims. If you're not Christian, they generally don't have much of an interest in you either. They just don't hate you as much as they hate atheists and Muslims. By the way, if you're an atheist or unaffiliated, that's, again, a big category now. Among the young, it's 32%. Overall in the country, it's at least 14%. The Republicans have no use for you. They don't like you. They actively dislike you. If you're Muslim and you haven't figured out the Republicans don't like you, I don't think I could buy you a clue large enough. Okay, and finally, this, I think, is the most instructive fact in terms of what we learn, okay? They say knowing someone from a religious group is linked with having relatively more positive views of that group. Those who say they know someone who is Jewish, for example, give Jews an average thermometer rating of 69, compared with a rating of 55 among those who say they do not know anyone who is Jewish. It's a big 14-point difference there. Atheists receive a neutral rating of 50 on average from people who say they personally know an atheist, but they receive a cold rating of 29 from those who do not know an atheist. That's a gigantic 21-point difference. Similarly, Muslims get a neutral rating, 49 on average, from those who know a Muslim, and a cool rating, 35, from those who do not know a Muslim. Okay, see, that is monumentally important. See, this is exactly what gay Americans went through, and they realized it's important for people to come out of the closet, because if people realize that they know someone gay, they go, wait a minute, now he doesn't quite seem demonic, he doesn't seem that evil, I know him, I like him, I love him, he might be a family member, right? So I don't want to discriminate against him. This is natural human instincts. But there's not a lot of Muslims in the country. About 1 to 2% of the country is Muslim. So not a lot of people know Muslims. It's only about 30%, it's in the 30s, about 38% or so know any Muslim at all, okay? So since they don't know a lot of Muslims, they got cold ratings. But if you know a Muslim, they score exactly where they should be, right around the 50-point mark. They're at 49. Atheists, same way. If you know an atheist, you're like, well, I mean, Bob's not so bad. He's actually a pretty good guy. And they scored 50. So it's critical for people to get out there and meet more people, to open your mind, open your horizons, so that we could all be a little bit more understanding toward one another. And by the way, for Democrats as well, and for atheists and unaffiliated, if you don't know an evangelical Christian, they might seem like, oh my God, they got all these crazy fundamentalist ideas, and I don't like their ideology, hence I don't like them. But that's a fundamental mistake. Now, I, of course, growing up in America, knew plenty of evangelical Christians, and I know that some of them are questionable dudes who are playing out their inner demons with whatever religion they happen to be attached to, and some of them are the best people I've ever met in my life. So making generalizations, whether it's about Muslims, atheists, or evangelical Christians, is clearly the wrong way to go. We learn a lot from this survey, so I'm glad that Pew did it, okay? So, now, that is very, I keep saying these words because I think they are, and I think I learned a lot from today's news, okay? Very instructive for the next story, okay? Now, keep what I just said in mind as we talk about Bill Maher and the others, okay? So, Bill Maher had his program on Friday night. Ben Affleck was on the panel, and then Sam Harris joined him for an interview. And as Sam Harris and Bill Maher were talking, Ben Affleck couldn't help but jump in from time to time. Now, I want to give you a sense of the whole debate here. I'll explain a couple of things as we go along, but at the end, I'll break down what I think they're right and wrong about and why, okay? So let's start watching. Here's the beginning.
These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for, But then when you say in the Muslim world this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
Yeah. Well, liberals have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world, I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion, thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous.
Now, I know it was a little snide, but I like Ben Affleck's beginning there. Oh, thank God you're here to straighten us out. Now, look, I'm a person who's an ex-Muslim. I don't believe in Islam. That's why I left. I find it irrational. And I'm not sure there's a program in the country that has criticized different actions by Muslim countries, Muslim, different factions, groups, etc., you name it, right, than we have. But so I would never say criticizing Islam is Islamophobia, because then I would be guilty of Islamophobia. That makes no sense. The problem is when you conflate criticizing Islam with generalizing about Muslims. Now, let's see if they do that here. In some parts they do not. I think in some parts they do. So let's go forward.
So hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening to what we are saying.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
That's just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It's not a fact. It's an ugly
apostasy.
Okay. So first, I think Mara's wrong because he assumes, look, I'm a liberal. That means I'm a good guy, right? So I can't make generalizations and stereotypes that are discriminatory. Turns out that's not really true. Turns out you can. We're going to get to that a little bit later as the clips go on here. Now, some people are jumping on Ben Affleck there for saying, calling them racist. Oh, Islam's not a race. Just calm down, dude. You know he meant bigoted. You know that there's not much of a distinction. So don't nitpick stupid stuff like that. We'll talk about the substance of polls, et cetera, in a second, right? But the most important part there is at the end when they're talking about, Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas. Now, look, I'm against all the religions. I think there's a ton of bad ideas in all the religions. And I know Sam Harris has criticized Christianity extensively, Judaism a little less. But I think that we're beginning to see part of the problem here. When you say Muslims are particularly bad, well, that's a red flag, right? Because here, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Because I think our stereotypes are, well, Muslims, they do the beheadings, they do the bombings, they're really bad. I mean, we're civilized over here. We don't behead anybody for a cartoon, right? But wait a minute. We launch more wars than maybe everyone else combined. I know we always say in our rationalizations, and sometimes it's true, I've been in favor of some of those wars, we say, well, we're the good guys when we launch a war. It's for a good reason. It's to liberate people. Sometimes, but oftentimes not. And so why doesn't it count when we do bombing? Sometimes when we bomb someone, I've read articles here on air where the drone strike or a missile strike might hit somebody and it literally severs their head from their body, decapitates them, and in one article it talked about how the head rolled down the street. Okay, now, we didn't do it with a knife, we did it with bombings. But no, Islam is the one with the really bad ideas. But okay, you say, well, now when America does it, it's not really for religious reasons, except for, as we've talked about in the past, Bush said that he was going in Iraq because Gog and Magog were supposed to come out of Iraq. He told the leader of France that, couldn't believe he was hearing that from the president. So that was at least perhaps a part of the reason we went into Iraq. And remember that with fundamentalist Christianity, I think you have the most dangerous idea of out of all of these, and these are, remember, all people of the book, so they all generally agree to the same thing, which is the ending, Armageddon, where almost all of us die. But now if you're looking at those different religious groups who roughly believe that, Christianity and Islam being the two largest, who are the ones who are most excited about and has based their principal ideology about the return of Jesus Christ and Armageddon? Well, that would be fundamentalist Christians who can't, and who sometimes actively try to make that happen in the world. For example, when they did a letter-writing campaign to President Bush saying, do not do peace in the Middle East, the Jews must have all of the Holy Land so that we can have Armageddon. Not only is that the motherlode of bad ideas, I mean, that's almost literal, right? But think about how dangerous it is. In the pursuit of the ultimate death for the planet, they are actually doing policy positions that lead to deaths of thousands of people. In Iraq, hundreds of thousands of people with their decisions. That is also very important and also a motherlode of bad ideas. So when you just point out Muslims, I don't think you're being accurate, okay? And as you can tell, I got no love for any of those religions. All right, let's keep going.
Or how about the more than a billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punish women, who just want to go to the store?
Wait a second. Wait a second.
Wait a second. Any of the things that you're saying all Muslims.
Wait a second.
Stereotyping.
Wait a second.
Things and you're painting the whole religion with that.
No. Let's get down to who has the right answer here. A billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these.
5 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs.
No,
I wouldn't.
Well, they don't.
That's just not true, Ben. That's just not true.
Can I just express how I think?
Okay, bingo, right there. That's the biggest problem in this whole thing. Bill Maher saying no, over 1 billion Muslims. All of them. Not a small minority, not even, a significant minority. No, he said that's just not true. All of them hold those opinions. He might not have literally said all, but when Affleck talked about over 1 billion people, Maher said that's not true. They do hold those. Over 1 billion people hold what? Radical views. See, that's because people who aren't Muslims, like Bill Maher in this case, apparently don't know too many Muslims. You could be non-Muslim and know plenty, right? But Bill Maher knows the celebrity ex-Muslims that are, being hounded, etc. And I know those people too, and I feel terrible for them. Look, I'm an ex-Muslim, but that gives me two perspectives. One is, when they talk about how dangerous it is for people to leave Islam, believe me, I know that, right? So when they talk about some Muslim countries, they have majorities, and I'll show you that in a second, would say execution is the right remedy for anyone who leaves Islam. They're talking about me. So I understand the danger. No one understands it better than I do. On the other hand, since I'm ex-Muslim, I also know a ton of Muslims. And I know that they are generally aunts and uncles. Like Ben Affleck said there, they want to make a sandwich. They want to make sure their kids are all right. They want to have nice tea in the afternoon. They're not some part of vicious, radical fundamentalists. No. If you knew enough Muslims, that would obviously be a crazy thing to say. Now, I left the religion because to me it makes no sense whatsoever, and I think that it creates some dangerous ideas in the culture, okay? But to think that all the aunts and uncles, moms and grandparents that are Muslim, over 1 billion of them, are all radicals. No. Well, that's almost the definition of bigotry. So Ben Affleck is definitely right here. And Sam Harris aside, Bill Maher there, in what he just said, is definitely wrong. All right, let's continue.
As you say, we have 1.5, 1.6 billion Muslims. Now,
second biggest religion in the world, a quarter.
Well, Ben, let me unpack this. Let me unpack this for you.
Please do.
We have just imagine some concentric circles here. You have at the center, you have jihadists. These are people who wake up in the morning wanting to kill apostates, wanting to die trying. They believe in paradise. They believe in martyrdom. Outside of them, we have Islamists. These are people who are just as convinced of martyrdom and paradise and wanting to foist their religion on the rest of humanity, but they want to work within the system. They're not going to blow themselves up on a bus. They want to change governments. They want to use democracy against itself. Those two circles arguably are 20% of the Muslim world. Okay, this is not the fringe of the fringe. What are you basing that research on? A bunch of poll results that we can talk about. But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower the true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
Okay. Let's first acknowledge and establish that 20% number totally made up. And you could tell when Affleck said, hey, what poll are you basing that? A series of polls. Really? Which one said 20%? Or how did you combine them to get to the 20% number? No, you made that number up. Okay, let's just be honest about that. Now, there are polls that are really troubling, which they mention later. And here, let me show you one, okay? And this comes from a Pew Research Center. Washington Post wrote an article about it. Share of Muslims who support the death penalty for leaving Islam, okay? Now, when you look at some of the countries down at the bottom there, or at the top, however you want to look at it, Afghanistan's over 60%. Pakistan is right around 60% as well. Egypt. So those are really, really troubling. When you look at the other end, though, almost no one in Kazakhstan thinks that, or Albania, or Turkey, or Kosovo, and the list goes on and on. So what you're seeing there is when you're overgeneralizing about Muslims, it's actually doesn't make any sense because there's an enormous range there. And by the way, most of the Muslims in the world are not in the higher end of that range. They're in countries that are either in the middle of that range or towards the bottom of that range. So when you say all Muslims, that's not true. Now, that doesn't mean that the higher end of that range isn't troubling. Again, I would be the most troubled by that because I would not like to be executed, right? I think that sometimes you have cultural issues that are intertwined with religion that are really dangerous. At the end, I want to talk about how we can address those in a positive way. But the negative way of addressing that is all Muslims believe this, and then based on that poll and a couple others I saw, I'll make up a number of 20% who all are radical Islamists who would like to blow people up. That is not at all helpful or even true. We continue.
They don't get covered. They don't get exposed. And they're not given the same level of platform that we see the jihadists.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out, because it's the only religion that acts like the mafia that will fucking kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
So you do have,
there's a reason why Ayaan Hirsi Ali needs bodyguards 24/7.
Again, we have a double standard here. Look, it drives me insane when they say if you draw a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, we're going to kill you or we're going to do whatever to you. Under no circumstances should we bend to that kind of extremism, fundamentalism. And all the people who do that, I couldn't honestly hate more, okay? I couldn't disagree with more. I couldn't fight against them more. But when you take that group of people and then say everybody in Indonesia does it, well, that's just not true. Indonesia is the most populous Muslim nation. They're a disturbing number, a little over 10% say that apostates should be executed. That really bothers me. But closer to 90% say they should not. So when you say all Indonesians say that, that's not true. When you say all Muslims say that, that's not true, okay? So no, not all Muslims are like the mafia. And again, when we bomb people, whether it's in America, it's in Israel, it's in other Christian nations, right? Well, none of that counts because, I mean, they're doing it for religion. We're not doing it for religion. Except some of us are doing it for religion. General Boykin said that in Somalia, during the Black Hawk Down episode, he felt that he was fighting against the great Satan, but that's okay, we were going to win because we have the greater God. But somehow that doesn't count either, right? And when the Germans had on their buckle belts, Gott mit uns, God is with us, well, all the Christians say, no, that doesn't count. So whenever Christians do anything and they say, I am doing it because God is with us, it doesn't count. But when Muslims do something, I saw a guy with a knife, that definitely counts. Well, I'm sure that if they had Tomahawk missiles, they would use those as well. And I'm sure that if our fundamentalists, meaning Christian and Jewish fundamentalists that are more prevalent in the West, if all they had were knives, then they might use knives. The problem is fundamentalism, not religion. One more.
You don't understand my argument.
Your argument is like, black people, they show each other.
That is not my argument.
No, it's not. It's based on facts. I can show you a Pew poll of Egyptians. They are not outliers in the Muslim world that say like 90% of them believe death is the appropriate response to leaving the religion. If 90% of Brazilians thought that death was the appropriate response to leaving Catholicism, you would think it was a bigger deal. I mean, if Filipinos were capturing teenagers and sending them into white slavery, we would criticize that. We wouldn't say, well, they're
criticize
Filipinos.
the people who were doing it, not the Philippines. You know what I mean?
Well, what if the people
who were... Filipino kid lives down the street from you would have nothing to do with that.
That was an excellent point by Affleck at the end. You can't argue with that. And Bill literally couldn't argue with that. And as we just showed you the numbers he's referring to, he actually got it wrong. It's actually a little over 60% of Egyptians believe that, which is still a very disturbing number, but it's not 90%. And he said they're not outliers in the Muslim world, but we just showed you the graph where they appear to be outliers. Unfortunately, there's a good number of countries with them, but the majority of the Muslims in the world do not agree to that. Okay? We just showed you the graph. Okay, now let's talk about the disturbing things, right? Look, unfortunately, some parts of the religion have bled into the culture, and some parts of a pre-existing culture have bled into the religion, and it's all mixed up. So, for example, when Reza Aslan was talking about female genital mutilation, he said that it's mainly in Africa, and people got all over him because they say, no, that's not true. It's actually in some Muslim parts of the world that are not in Africa. Well, yes and no. So, yes, in some areas, female genital mutilation does exist outside of Africa. It is mainly with some Muslim communities, but for example, where it happens in Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, it is mainly the Kurdish population for whom it is also a cultural aspect of their, and you can tell because other Sunni Muslims that are right next to them, that are Turks and Arabs, do not do it, but the Kurds do it because they're a different culture. Okay? Now, I'm afraid that some of the religion enables that culture, and I don't want that, and I'm going to talk at the end here, almost at it, as to how we can fix that, right? But to say that it's just Muslims is also incorrect. Now, Reza Aslan was right that in Africa, it's prevalent in not just Muslim, but also definitely in Christian culture. He gave the example of Eritrea. I looked it up, and he said about 90% of Christians do it, and that's roughly right. 89% of Catholics and 85% of Protestants in Eritrea practice female genital mutilation. Those are Christians, and they do it in overwhelming numbers, also in Ethiopia, also in many other countries. So it is a cultural issue. Okay. Now, again, sometimes it exasperates it. Now, here's what people don't talk about. For example, there's kidnappings in the Central Asian republics. They kidnap their brides. Now, that involves kidnapping, oftentimes involves rape, and then the girl's parents go over there and convince the girl to stay and marry the guy. That is a horrific part of the culture, and I do believe that there are bad parts of culture, and we have to fight against those. I actually believe in the culture wars, but you got to understand what you're fighting so that you don't go in the wrong direction, okay? Now, that has existed in that culture for so long. Now, a lot of those people in this day and age happen to be Muslim. Are they doing it because they're Muslim? No, they're doing it because they've done that for thousands of years in that specific area of the world. So understand what the real problem is. Okay, look, finally, let's get to the idea of what do we do with cultural practices that are abhorrent? Female genital mutilations, the killing people that don't agree with you, the decapitations, and on it goes. Those are real. They definitely happen in some portions of the Muslim world and in some portions of the non-Muslim world. Okay, the way to fight that is not by generalizing against all Muslims, because you will alienate the local population, and besides which it's not true. Here, I'll give you an example how you would do that in another context, and you would realize, obviously, it's not the right thing to do. So, for example, thousands of innocent Palestinian civilians were killed in the latest Gaza incursion. Now, Israel says there's very good reasons for that, and they're hiding behind the schools, the hospitals, etc. I'm not taking a position on where you should wind up on that in that political debate. But 85% of Israelis supported Netanyahu during that incursion. So if people were to say, well, that's it then. 85% of Jews agree that you should kill innocent civilians. Wouldn't you just pause for a second? Wait a minute, now that doesn't sound right. I mean, that's not what they're necessarily agreeing to, and you found that one poll, but that doesn't mean Jews all want to kill innocent civilians. It depends on how you view it, right? You would never say that about Jews because you shouldn't, okay? You certainly wouldn't say it about all Christians, even though we started the Iraq War, a majority Christian country, America, right? It's not a Christian nation, but an overwhelming majority are Christians. We started an Iraq War that killed hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, but you say, no, you can't possibly generalize about Christians that they all killed those people or led to the deaths of so many innocent civilians. So if you wouldn't say it about Christians and you wouldn't say it about Jews, why do you say it about Muslims? Because it's the same kind of generalization, and it's counterproductive. I want to change that culture. Help me change that culture. Now, here's the ways that you can go about it that are more productive. you should be in favor of massive education. We should be bombing these countries not with bombs and missile strikes and drone strikes, but with textbooks. I don't mean textbooks with our version of history or propaganda. I'm just talking about facts, science, math, whatever else you need to educate people so they don't believe in the myths of the past and these books from thousands of years ago that make no sense today. The more you know about physics, the closer you'll get to a rational world. That's why one of the most dangerous terrorist groups in the world is called Boko Haram. That's in Nigeria. You know what it means? It means Western education is evil, is forbidden. Western education, what they call Western education, is their enemy. Because in reality, math is not Western or Eastern, it's just math. And they hate it because it leads you to facts instead of propaganda, which is what all religious fundamentalists want to fill your head with, or want to fill the head of the local population with. So you combat them by giving people the opposite, facts instead of propaganda. The other thing that you do is that you talk about secularism and how important it is. Because when you combine church and state, or in the case of Muslims, mosque and state, it is actually damaging to both parties. This is what our founding fathers in America knew about and what they were so right about. Unfortunately, our Christian fundamentalists here have forgotten it as well. But not only does it corrupt the government, but it also corrupts the religion. So many ways to make that argument effectively. So you go to the local populations in Egypt, in Pakistan, and ask them, hey, do you trust your religion to a bunch of local politicians? Believe me, they hate their politicians as much as we do. That makes them go, wait a minute now, do I want that scummy politician down the street telling me my version of Islam? Then ask them this question. Well, Islam has no pope. Now, why do you think the Prophet Muhammad and Allah set it up that way? Because they didn't want one guy who could be corrupted to tell you how you should deal with Allah. The book tells you how you should deal with Allah. You should listen to the book and not some authority figure who can be corrupted, whether it's a religious figure or a political figure. So don't let them corrupt Islam. Now, I don't believe in Islam, but I do believe that that's an effective argument for people who do believe in Islam. And a lot of people, and you would be surprised, and definitely Bill Maher, and I think Sam Harris would be surprised, at how many people would say, yes, that's a good point. I don't want my beloved Quran, in their case, to get corrupted by politicians, by the government, or by religious leaders who pervert it for their own purposes. I mean, remember, in Islam, they don't even allow you to draw the Prophet Muhammad or build statues or paint him or in any way, because they don't want you to get distracted by some other thing that is a false idol, as opposed to being concerned about the religion as described in the Quran. So you can paint the politicians and all these people trying to be an Islamic pope, like al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. That's exactly what he's doing. He's a false idol. Those are effective arguments you can make to begin to convince the local population to be in favor of secularism, education, so that you can root out the things that are based on the old myths and that are counterproductive and hideous, like female genital mutilations and the decapitations. That's how we work to win over Muslims throughout the world, so that we lead the world in the right direction. You don't do it by saying all Muslims are radical, or in the case of Sam Harris, 20% of Muslims are radicalized and they affect all other Muslims. And they're so much worse than the other religions. It's not true, and it is most definitely counterproductive. The minute you tell Muslims you're worse than everyone else, number one, they know it's not true, and number two, they're going to shut down because they're going to say, that guy's against me, that guy hates me. It is not the right way to go. All right, Steve.
All right, look, the whole thing is very simple, and you kind of discussed at the end. The problem isn't that that's a Muslim problem. The problem is that it's a combination of religion and state problem, which you discussed. The fact is, these Muslim countries, they are problematic, okay, more so than the U.S., and that is because they are more religious. So on that spectrum of that chart that you showed, the more defined a society or nation is by its religion, the bigger problem it has. Now, the reason why the U.S. doesn't kill people for their religious belief is because we're a secular state. You don't think we would do that if we had religious fundamentalists, if we became a Christian nation? Of course we would. I mean, we would definitely outlaw gays. We would get rid of abortion. Women will be second-class citizens by law. We would do all those things that we detest the Muslim world for doing, But that's, again, not a function of it being a Muslim world rather than a Christian world, but because it's religion plus government. Religion plus government equals disaster.
Let me add one quick thing to that, because that's a very good point that Steve's making. The countries that were at the bottom of the list that we showed you for saying apostates should be executed were all culturally secular countries. Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Albania were all former Soviet Union or allies of the Soviet Union in their satellite countries. And so they were forced to be secular, but that took root in the culture. So as much as they're Muslim and devout Muslims, they believe in a secular form of government. Obviously, Turkey, for a long, long time, was militantly secular. Now the current government less so, and that's why that number is rising in Turkey. So the correct answer isn't how, as Steve is pointing out, how Muslim you are or how Christian you are. The correct answer is how secular are you? The more secular you are, the less you do beheadings and other horrible things embedded in some of the language of the religions, including Christianity, where Deuteronomy says you should kill all non-believers, okay? And the countries that are more religious, well, then you're going to get the bad results that people want to avoid. So that's the true test.
One excellent example is Uganda. So Uganda is a Christian nation, and they want to execute gays. So should we conflate Uganda's policies with all Christian nations? Of course not. But that's a country where, unfortunately, religion and government has become deeply embedded, and you have all these massively bad issues. And that's exactly what's going to happen in the U.S. if we keep going down this path of being overly religious. They want to bring creationism into schools and get rid of biology and evolution and science. They want to hold back women's rights. They want to make life as miserable for gays as possible. It's the same problem. It's the same virus. It just has a different name.
Yeah, of course. The real problem is fundamentalism, as we've talked about over and over again. And, we sometimes call them the American Taliban. What might be slightly more accurate is if we call them the American Boko Haram, right? Because they also believe Western education is sinful and it should be replaced by creationism and some of their other theories based on their original texts, just as the fundamentalist Muslims do. All right, let's take a quick break here. I'm going to come back and tell you more about the Phantom Menace Coruscant. That was a segment from hour one of the show.
Now for the better hour, the second hour.
Drums. You can get the whole show on TYT-network.com. All right, back on the Young Turks. What am I going to do with these people? All right, Salazar Slytherin writes in, Cenk is getting sick. Flu season has officially begun. Now, I think it's because of a lot of travel that I did. And whenever I do a lot of travel, I get sick. I think it has to do with that, not flu season. Wait a minute, I was outside the country and now I'm sick.
Oh, God. Remember when I had that light cold last weekend, or week, I should say? Everyone thought I had Ebola?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And so it begins.
And let's keep it real, Cenk, the sickest man in America.
I know, I'm always getting sick, right? No, but look, do you remember that was my New Year's resolution, to get healthier, right? Now, I've decided I'm 56% of the way towards my six-pack. And I have talked about my monstrous triceps and all that. And my feet have gotten better. You see I'm not limping around as much, okay? But this is only the second time I've gotten sick this year. And since I'm normally the sickest man in America, I'm going to call that progress. We're in October.
I can't believe we're in October. Oh, my God.
Right?
We're all going to die soon.
I know. And it has nothing to do with Ebola. We're just going to be 87. We're going to be Fox News
Before
viewers.
we freaking know
die.
it. That's it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your life.
I wonder what's going through Anna's head. Okay. Leo Silver says, I got some advice to prayers. Use your hands and feet to earn the wishes you can achieve with passion, hard work, and determination. I love that advice. Okay. Rob says Cuba routinely shames us in humanitarian efforts, which is unfortunately somewhat true. If only we had more resources than Cuba. Okay, and finally, Sean Ferris says, I'm friends with a few of Gomert's constituents, and they believe it too. Hashtag TYT Live, which is of course how you can communicate with us during the show, and hashtag SMH, shake my head. And the members of the day are Hassan Ahmed, he is member number 2515, and Robert Ash, member number 1068. Hassan and Robert, God bless your hearts. Okay? We'll, of course, as usual, give you a fun post-game story. We don't know what it is yet, but I think we've let people down 1% of the time.
With the post games?
Yeah.
I don't even think 1% is an
Okay,
accurate
now that
number.
sounds like we're bragging and ridiculous. That can't be true. But I'm like, ask anybody who's a member, right? I get tweets all the time.
I shared my favorite porn star in a post game, which I shouldn't have said right now because my mom's watching. Whatever, Mom.
Just please, okay, Mrs. Kasparian, hashtag whatevs, okay? I already forgot your favorite porn star. All right, I'll have to go back and watch the podcast. Okay, all right, let's move forward.
Okay. Richland School District in Washington State is doing away with their swings because they feel that it's too much of a liability, and insurance companies want them to do away with them. So an official released a statement about this because, as you can imagine, some parents are upset. They grew up with swings. They don't understand why the swings have to go. So here's what the official had to say. As schools get modernized or renovated, or as we're doing work on the playground equipment, we'll take out the swings. It's just really a safety issue. Swings have been determined to be the most unsafe of all the playground equipment on the playground.
Okay, so I'm very curious which way you guys are going to go on this. I'm actually, believe it or not, torn on this issue. You're not torn at all.
Look, I don't have kids, so maybe one day when I have kids, I'll change my mind. But I loved swings. I grew up on. I have fond memories of my dad taking me to the park and letting me play on the swings for an hour at a time.
We all grew up on getting our ass beat by our parents. It's not necessarily the right thing to do.
No, but
drop it. Now, Justice Kasparian, I am really split on the issue, so go ahead, make your case.
My case is we are babying our children way too much, okay? No one's going to die from a swing. They might get a little injured, but they could get injured running. They could get injured playing kickball. They could get injured playing handball. I mean, really? Like, are we just going to ban everything because we're so worried about the kids getting injured? It's part of growing up. You go out there, you play, you risk injury.
Okay, now, counterpoint. There are 200,000 playground injuries every year, okay? And many of them are because of swings. Swings lead to the most injuries out of all the playgrounds.
That's a misleading sentence.
That
is a misleading sentence. They started off by saying there are 200,000 injuries every year.
In the article, they scream it.
Right? And then they go like, many of which are caused by swings. No, give me an exact figure, please, because I'd like to know.
It's obvious they don't have an exact figure.
Yeah,
Sam Harris had a little bit.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Not
I shouldn't have said that. Okay. But I do believe them. You're right. I shouldn't have even said most because they are not saying most. They're saying many. Okay, and it's also some logic and common sense and that's why they're taking them out first because it is the anecdotal, at the very least, the anecdotal evidence of that school that the swings cause the most accidents. Honestly, the whole what do we call the playground? Something with a monkey.
Monkey bars.
Monkey bars. The whole thing, right? The whole jungle, whatever it is. Jungle gym, right? The whole thing looks incredibly dangerous to me. But to give you a sense of what a dork I am, I thought it was incredibly dangerous when I was a kid. I was like, these swings, I mean, I could fall off this thing. I don't know. And then you want me to crawl across that? You crazy dog? I'm not doing that, right? So I don't know why we expose our kids to like the most dangerous thing when they're the youngest. So, I mean, it's not like it's Ebola, but obviously kids can fall off of it. I'm constantly worried that they're going to break their neck.
I can't believe that this is your commentary on this. I'm actually really surprised. I think that this is going above and beyond when it comes to keeping kids safe.
I hear you. I think most Americans are with you, but let's find out what the rest of the court says. Justice Jackson.
Keep them. Keep the swings. I mean, I get that they're dangerous. Who knows the numbers again, like Anna pointed out. But, I mean, again, I have fond memories of getting the swing so damn high that it skips, and you're like, okay, when am I going to jump? When am I going to take
my case? Thanks.
When am I going to take my? No.
Yeah.
You know how the case is made? I've never broken a bone. My injuries came from.
No. See, let me just extinguishing that case. No, except when the sand, of course, melts away, and as JR was saying this morning, you've got a giant rock that sticks out. That almost always happens. Okay.
It was always railroad ties.
Then why don't we ban the rocks? Right?
Oh, okay. No, you guys are totally wrong on one particular thing, which is it never happened to me. Yeah, but it happened to 200,000 people every year.
No, it did not happen to 200,000 people every year.
No, I'm not saying just swings, but playground injuries. Playground injuries. It happens to 200,000. Just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
That means that there are other things on that playground that lead to injuries. So do we just ban the jungle gym?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
about.
You're
insane.
Okay.
You're insane.
Well, I'm considering it.
We want kids to be more physically active. We don't want to discourage them, and this is just another way of discouraging them.
Why do they have to be physically active?
Because our kids are getting fat. That's why.
No. why do they specifically have to be physically active in a place where they can go break their necks? Why can't they be physically active in other contexts? Why don't we set up bikes for them?
They can fall off their bike
running in a
break their
field
neck.
gets boring, bro. Like, fucking, what do you want them to just open up a lawn and be like, all right, just run around in circles?
Okay, no. I'll give you a sense of what we did when we were in elementary school, okay? We used to play a much safer sport called Kill the Man with the Ball. That was literally what we called it, okay? I don't know if you guys played that or wherever you grew up. And I love that game. So somebody would grab the ball and they'd run until people piled on them and ripped the ball out, okay? And then that guy would run. It was a big open field, okay? And I'd grab the ball and I would never let go. See, now that's a good all-American game.
Well, how many reported injuries are from that?
None. Because no one's ever reported.
Exactly, because everybody's unconscious.
Yeah, I think Anna's surprise for your judgment on this, Cenk, is you've always lead these conversations with, we baby our kids too much. Let them be kids.
That's right.
So it's that's the reason
that's
why.
That's why I'm split.
Yeah, so what happened with the swing?
Because I don't like that stuff. Like I ever since I was a kid, like I said, I worried. I'm like, man, if I swing high enough, this thing's gonna loop around. I'm not gonna do that, right? Right? Jump off. What are you, crazy? I'm not jumping off. Okay, I'm gonna slow down and eventually I will just stop. Okay. So, but I'm a rational guy because I know that will, even back when I was a kid, I knew, well, it happens a certain percentage of the time. I don't want it to be in that percentage for me. Now that I got kids, I definitely don't want it to be in that percentage for my kids.
Is your kid crazy? Did they love the swings?
Well, no, my son is as careful as I am. He's like, let's go on the swings, let's swing really high, but don't get carried away, okay? My daughter, who's 2 years old, is like, more. All right, so Jesus, you're also voting keep the swings?
Yeah, are you crazy? Yeah. So much fun.
I don't know why, but I thought you were going to come to my defense. No, you have not.
That's crazy. And you played football, too. Like, you lead with your head, or some people...
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I'm okay with mental damage.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I have not made a very effective case here.
No, you have
I'll be
not.
honest with you. And in the end, I will not even vote for my side.
I love it.
So we're going to be unanimous. To me, it was a 55-45 call. But yeah, let the kids swing. They love it. And I know we're going to get some injuries, but you know what? I'm going to chalk that up under freedom.
I thought you were going to say sad day for you.
No, freedom. America. Okay? You know what America has? Swings.
Yes. That was such a great, fond memory growing up. I would be so sad if my kids didn't get to experience that.
Yeah. But I emphasize, just because you had a fond memory of it doesn't make it naturally a good thing. There are a lot of cultures that are wrong, right? Or a lot of things that are in the culture.
This isn't like honor killings. We're talking about swings, okay?
Oh, so you're swinging this in, the next thing you know, you're swinging from a tree. No. You got slippery slopes. End it right here. Okay.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about condoms. Some companies are concerned that the conventional condom doesn't do enough to protect you from certain STDs like herpes. In fact, if you're wearing a regular condom, you still have a very, very small chance of getting herpes if your partner is in the middle of an outbreak, which sounds disastrous. So a new company has come up with something called the ScroGuard.
Oh, thanks God.
Let's show you some images of this.
Okay.
It's basically like a big latex diaper that you just
that sounds so hot. Okay. I'm so glad somebody invented this.
All right, so the way that it works is it looks like underwear, like latex underwear that you wear on, but it has like a condom attached to it, right?
Oh.
So, all right, here's a video. Can we play some audio, please?
Jeez. You're getting ready to have a blast, but you are not sure about someone's sexual past. Part of the skin of your genital area has a cover, but most is still exposed to your lover. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Now, there's ScroGuard, the powerful new product that you can wear with any condom. The secret is the high-quality premium latex that is thick enough to cover your genital area, but thin enough to feel like a second skin. Just fasten any two buttons securely into place, and when you're ready, tuck the condom into the base. Got an intimate encounter with someone new? ScroGuard slips easily into your pocket, so you can carry it with you wherever you go. You can also put on ScroGuard hours before the main event, so that you can avoid awkward interruptions. Its soft, durable, elastic latex can expand to fit waists up to 48 inches. ScrollGuard is disposable and washable, so you can stay clean every time. And shipping is discreet so that your privacy is protected. This product is not available in stores, so visit ScrollGuard.com to make sure you get yours. ScrollGuard, because protection is everything.
Okay, I don't know what part of that I love most. Or the guy washing his ScrollGuard in the kitchen? Oh, don't do that, dude. Don't. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Okay.
ScrollGuard.
Sounds so hot. By the way,
I like that it's a thong in the back, too.
I like that they've invented the ugliest word in the English language. ScrollGuard. Okay.
You're about to have a blast.
And why does everybody using the ScrollGuard look like zombies or vampires or evil robots?
Yeah, that have been spending a lot of time at the gym, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how the guy is about to have a blast, and he's lying down on the ground, and she takes off like she's coming at him from behind. Like, because they're doing some fucked up things. That's why they need the ScrollGuard. That's why when he opened up his pants, it blew up. If you notice that part, right?
So there's some chance. I have a hard time believing that this is real. Like,
I know, right?
Who would come up with a product like this and think that it would actually sell? And then here's the thing: if it is real, there are going to be some people out there that are like, they take extra precautions just to make sure that nothing goes wrong, and you're not going to get laid.
Yeah, I mean, so there's two parts to that, right? If you're the guy or woman who's like, oh my God, I gotta wear an umbrella in bed, right? Like, I gotta wear like the yellow raincoat, and I'm gonna bring I'm gonna be like a Hong Kong protester in bed, okay? Well, I mean, it's not the hottest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
Or you're coming in with, the Ebola outfit that Dustin Hoffman has, right? That's because you already have the shit. Like, then that's like, I don't know that I want to go in that ScrollGuard direction. Right? So none of these outcomes are good.
Yeah.
And
we got to come up with a better idea when it comes to condoms and protection in general. Like, the Gates Foundation is actually, donating a ton of money to researchers so they can come up with a better condom.
It turns out this was it. Bill Gates came up with ScrollGuard.
How disastrous would that be?
Okay, no. So I like that the guy's putting it in his pocket. Because later, when things are about to get hot and heavy, it's like slip into the bathroom or something and then take off all of his clothes, put them on the ground in the fucking public bathroom, and then put on the ScrollGuard. Okay. And I like the guy.
But it has like the really fashionable 3-button snap on the side.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know what I mean?
Or I like the guy presumptuous enough to go out in a ScrollGuard. Well, things are obviously going to happen. It's time to put on the ScrollGuard.
Oh my God, how would you feel if you're a woman? Like, this dude thinks that you have a disease. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like...
I got to, look, let's just keep it real.
What are you wearing?
I got to protect myself from you, okay? Like, I'd like to have sex with you, but it's obvious, like, I'm not the first guy. Okay, that is so obnoxious, right?
And by the way, if you put the ScrollGuard on before you leave for your hot date, the way the placement is, your junk, I'm not going to get too graphic, your penis is sticking straight up out of it.
Yeah, that's
the port is shooting up, so all night you're just straight up in the front of your pants, jammed. So it's a big problem.
At first, when I was reading, I saw the ScrollGuard article. Before I started reading, and I was like, "You're going to wrap your ass up, and then how are you going to get out?" Right?
Yeah.
And then I realized they've got a ventilator. They got that escape chute, right? But that, as JR points out, presents its own set of problems.
Look, yes, it does, and I'm concerned about the male anatomy. Comfort is important, right? Mm-hmm. So, it didn't seem like there was a lot of room for balls. Like, where are the balls going to go?
Oh man, they're going to scrunch them up. Yeah, no, I got no interest in that. No, I'm concerned about the balls. Okay, and then this triggered in me the idea of going back and remembering the one piece of prophylactic equipment that they taught us about in schools. I don't know if they still teach it. That was the least used.
What was it?
The dental dam.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember that when they told you, no, if you're gonna go down on a girl, you should saran wrap her ass? Mm-hmm. Oh, come on, dude. Who did that? There couldn't have been more than 7 people in the history of the world that were like, oh man, this is gonna be hot. Wait till you see that thing I do with my tongue. But wait 1 second. Wrap her ass up. Say, wait, what are you doing?
Isn't it just like a thin film that you just put over the,
I thought that it might have been literally saran wrap.
You're hilarious. Okay. No, but, okay, so... Look, there are legitimate reasons why people would want to do that. You can actually spread herpes that way. So if you have herpes of the mouth, you can spread it to genitals if you
I get
through
it.
oral sex, right?
No one.
Okay.
You're never
No,
going
I
to.
know.
You bust out the saran wrap and you're done.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. But also, if you want to convince people to use it, you got to name it something other than dental dam. Right? That's the worst name at dental dam.
Well, it was the worst until Scroll
Hold on,
Guard.
baby. I got to get the dental dam.
Okay. Let me put my Scroll Guard aside for a second and get my dental dam. But maybe they meant it like dental dam.
Oh, that's a little different. It's all about the pronunciation. You're right.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can't get behind oh man, it's so hot. Oh, wait till you see what I do to you. You got to go over the legs. Okay, now.
Oh man. Okay. Speaking of which, let's talk about oral sex.
Oh, okay, great.
All right. Gone Girl is a new movie featuring Ben Affleck. If you haven't seen any of the previews for it, we actually have a trailer for you. Take a look.
Nick Dunn, you're probably the most hated man in America right now. Did you kill your wife, Nick?
Everyone told us marriage is hard work. Not for me and Nick.
As you all know, my wife, Amy Elliott Dunn, disappeared 3 days ago. I had nothing to do with the disappearance of my wife. I have nothing to hide.
Has Amy got friends we can talk to?
No, not really.
You don't know if she has friends, you don't know what she does all day, and you don't know your wife's blood type.
I feel like something to be jettisoned if necessary. I feel like I could disappear.
The hallmark of a sociopath is a lack of empathy.
Amy lost a lot of blood in there, and then somebody mopped it up.
Why do they mop up the blood if they're trying to stage a crime scene?
Whatever they found, I think it's safe to assume that it's very bad.
I'd finally realized I am frightened of my own husband. Man of my dreams. This man of mine may kill me.
What about my son? Nick!
This man may kill me. In her own words,
this man may truly
kill me.
You ever hear the expression, the simplest answer is often the correct one?
Actually, I've never found that to be true.
I watched the movie. It's a really good movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to see it. I mean, I haven't been to the movies in probably a year and a half at this point, but it looks good. I want to see it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a scene in the movie that's actually getting a lot of attention. Apparently, there's an oral sex scene where Ben Affleck is performing on the female character. And the reason why it's getting a lot of attention is because of something I didn't know before. Apparently, back in the day, if you had an oral sex scene with a man performing on a woman,
yeah. Like, no. Okay, now I will not perform on you. First, the dental dam.
Okay. It would usually get an NC-17 rating, which is movie suicide, right? Like, it's just not good. It's not going to get enough. A lot of movie theaters will not distribute it. So the Daily Beast talked about this in a little more detail. They said the following. In the past, a scene like that depicting a woman well on her way to achieving orgasm would have earned the film a big, ugly NC-17 rating from the relentless prudes at the Motion Picture Association of America. And apparently there were movies in the past that had to deal with this, okay? Evan Rachel Wood was in one of those movies, and she was really upset when she found out that her film also got an NC-17 rating. She tweeted about it, and she wrote the following. After seeing the new cut of Charlie Countryman, I would like to share my disappointment with the MPAA who thought it was necessary to censor a woman's sexuality once again. The scene where the two main characters make love was altered because someone felt that seeing a man give a woman oral sex made people uncomfortable, but the scenes in which people are murdered by having their heads blown off remained intact and unaltered. This is a symptom of a society that wants to shame women and put them down for enjoying sex, especially when Gasp, the man, isn't getting off as well. It's hard for me to believe that had the roles been reversed, it still would have been cut. So, look, I don't know if this is like a man versus woman thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it is kind of interesting that like weird double standard existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not necessarily buying the whole man versus woman thing, but
yeah.
But she of course has an undeniable point about violence versus sex, right? I mean, people getting, eviscerated and decapitated. It's all so much worse. I got kids. Whenever I see those violent images, I'm like, I got to get them away from the screen, right? Sex, nudity, whatever. I mean, they see nude people all the time. So I'm not as freaked out by that. And now we all know what every scene is, right? Every scene where a woman is getting oral in the movies is the exact same. Okay, she arches her back. Okay, and you see her like stomach area like this, and you'll see her rib cage because they're all skinny. Okay, and then you'll see her hair go back, like, and then you'll hear like "Wasik." Okay, it's all the same. I just did it for you in the most unappealing way. Okay, so let's all calm down. Yes, women also get oral. Yes, you shouldn't get an NC-17 rating for it. It's a perfectly fine part of the movie. You're only going to get uncomfortable if you're watching it with your parents.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting because in Black Swan, they had that uncomfortably long oral sex scene between Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman, right?
Wrong again.
It lasted
worst use of an adjective.
Ever. So apparently when a woman performs on another woman...
Long. Wonderfully long. Okay, yes?
Are you done?
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. God, I got to bring back the ding, 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 ding for all your pervy moments.
Okay, but I mean, it's indisputable. I mean, I don't know anyone who watched that movie and didn't, any guy that watched that movie and didn't think.
Oh, guys like the oral sex scene between the
two
women.
really hot women.
Weird,
yeah.
right. I got it.
Okay, that should be like more PG-13. Like, that's fine.
So anyway, Ryan Gosling had to deal with this as well in his movie. I'm forgetting the name of the movie. What was it? It was Blue Monday or something like that.
Yes, there's no way that's true.
Damn it! Anyway, he released a statement about how his film also had to deal with an NC-17 rating. There's plenty of oral sex scenes in a lot of movies where it's a man receiving from a woman, and they're R-rated. Ours is reversed, and somehow it's perceived as pornographic. Black Swan has an oral scene, which is what I was referring to, between two women, and that's an R rating, but ours is between a husband and his wife, and that's an NC-17. So yeah, he's absolutely right about that. I really never noticed that was the case, but apparently this is what goes on in Hollywood.
Well, you see, if you have enough of those cases, no matter what we think of men versus women and whether it should make a difference or not, apparently it has in several cases made a difference, and that is obviously unjustifiable.
Yeah.
When in reality, we should be fine with everybody giving each other oral.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oral is great.
For everyone.
All right. Do we have time for another one?
Do I thought we had the thing there. We should allow all. Do we have the thing? The thing? Okay. We should allow everyone to do this.
Well, he didn't do that thing you do with your tongue.
Okay, that's where I was going with it, but it doesn't really work anyway. Yeah. Okay. But we tried. We
did. Damn it, what's the name of that stupid movie that he was in? Blue Valentine. Thank you. That was a great movie, by the way. Just forgot the name of it.
Was it because of the NC-17 rating that you liked that movie?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay.
Blue Valentine. There we go.
Okay. Did that come out already? I've never even heard of it.
Blue Valentine?
Yeah.
It came out years ago. Yeah, it was a great movie.
Interesting. Maybe I'll have to look into it. All right, let's do the last one. Okay, come on.
All right. Hipsters are now tired of smartphones, so they're going back to so-called dumb phones. And they're doing so because they really want to unplug, and it's not necessarily a bad idea, okay? So the San Francisco Chronicle detailed this story, and they were talking about how people are really frustrated with the fact that they're constantly having to check email, they need to reply all the time. So people are going back to these flip phones where all you can do is make calls and send and receive text messages. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what people say. One person, Tamar, says, people always ask me what my relationship with my phone is. And I'm like, I don't have one.
Yeah, all right. So Tamar is described as a 34-year-old Oakland artist. Okay, hipsters.
No, but I think they have a point. I'm addicted to my phone. I have serious withdrawals when it's not right
if I
by
gave
me.
you a dumb phone, you'd smash it within like 3/4 of a day.
100%.
You'd be like, oh, haha, see, I'm not addicted to it. Twitch away, and then you sit along, give me the new phone. That's smart. Okay, so now look, here's the thing. If you want to address that in other ways, I get it, but, and look, if you don't have the money for it, and they cost too much, I 1,000,000% get it, right? Then I think it makes a lot of sense. And those the so-called dumb phones are now like a nickel, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, you want one? Here, take it for free. What do I get, right? But if you're a hipster and you're like, oh, dude, I don't want to check my email in the middle of doing my art. Okay. Like, whatever, dude. Then don't check it in the middle of that. Go home and check it then. You know what I'm saying? Just exercise some self-control. All you're doing is taking options away from you.
And you love options.
I like options.
Yeah. No, I mean, some people don't have self-control, right? So I don't begrudge them for wanting to get rid of their smartphone and trading them in for a dumb phone. Just some really interesting facts and figures when it comes to the phone population, okay? So less than 30% of mobile accounts, only 13% in Baja's age, or Bejas, that's Tamar. So total dumb phone owners, 30%, 13 of which are between the ages of 25 and 34, which is the age group that Tamar fell under. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, now I don't mind this in the case of like younger kids. Like, so I want to give my kid a phone because if he gets into an emergency, I want him to be able to call me. I don't want to give him a smartphone where he's going to watch Netflix all day instead of paying attention in class. That makes a ton of sense. Okay, but then I might accidentally turn my kid into a hipster.
That would be terrible.
There are worse fates in the world.
It is kind of interesting how like things will get played out, whether it's technology or clothing, and then people will bring it back, right? Like, oh, this is the unhip thing, so now I'm going to make it hip again.
Yeah.
I always found that fascinating.
That's under the surface what's grating on my nerves. And that's my issue with hipsters. Like, they're always trying to find what's cool. Maybe it's because I don't know what's cool, and I'm not a cool person, right? But like, dude, why did you bother going back to like the 1970s and bring your bell bottoms back? And why? And then now, okay, oh, dude, you know what's really cool is playing Atari. Yeah, that was really cool in 1987. And so I'm not into the whole hipster thing of creating things that are cool based on nothing but utter bullshit.
I think you're cool, Jank.
Oh,
well,
thank you, Casper.
I think this is the other problem, though. I mean, everyone has their smartphones, but they have this. Some reason you're told you have to download everything. You have to have Facebook, Twitter, Vine,
Instagram.
Click, this, that, bip, and the bop, and that one, and this different way to communicate. You don't have to get them all. So when the phone presents you with all of these different apps, don't use them. So I get notifications that come up all the time and say, updating all these applications. Do you want this app? Do you want this app? Do you want that app? All that told me was I need to delete all these fucking apps that I don't use because I have no use of them. And I would be annoyed if I had all those constantly sending me notifications. I was like, why is this keep? Why do I have these? I don't use them. I'm not gonna go on. What's the one where you send for 3 seconds and go, huh? Or you send a dick pic. Whatever the use of that is that I have no use for. Why is it on my phone? I don't need it there. You know.
I like that I have my fellow grandpa on the panel here. Okay, I'm right there with you, brother.
Yeah, people feel like they have to do it. You don't need to dumb down to dumb phone. Just don't use your smartphone to the extent that you don't want it.
You know that my wife yells at me for not having enough apps on my phone.
Really?
She's like, what's the point of this phone? You only have like 8 apps. It only has 8 apps. I'm like, why do I need 38 apps? I don't know what to do with them.
I like the image of your wife bullying you. It's hilarious.
Okay, I'm like, okay, what app should I get that I won't use just to fill up my phone? Okay, all right. Now, that actually leads perfectly into what we'll discuss in the postgame because JR reminded me, I got an iPhone 6 over the weekend.
Oh, you fancy, huh?
Oh, super fancy. I will tell you the mind-numbing problems I have. You know I'm bad. I'm so bad at tech. The only thing I've been able to figure out is Squarespace. Thank God I fixed my face with Squarespace.
Thank God.
Promo code TYT. But I'll explain to you the struggles I had and how much people who are well versed in the tech world, which is now 89% of Americans, and how they don't understand us and they drive me crazy. Okay. So it's going to be a really fun topic. We'll talk about that for the members in the post game. Bye bye.
You liked that, didn't you?
All right. If you want the whole show, you like it even more, go to TYTnetwork.com. Go under member options, and you can get the whole show anytime you like.